few weeks ago, people were still asking if this group was ahead of schedule. Now they are staring at a 2 seed with a home game in the cold and a path that suddenly feels very real. It is not just one miracle night or one crazy comeback. It is the feeling that every time this team walks onto the field now, something heavy is about to happen, and the rest of the conference is only just starting to feel it. That win over Green Bay did more than knock out a rival. It changed how this roster walks, talks, and believes. You saw an offense that can climb out of deep holes, a quarterback in Caleb Williams who never looks rattled when the clock is bleeding and the crowd is losing its mind, and a defense that keeps taking the ball away when everyone in the stadium knows the other team has to throw. This group is young, but it does not play scared. It does not play like a surprise visitor. It plays like a team that expects to be here, that expects to punch first and last, and now it gets to do it again in front of its own fans with the season on the line. Now all of that energy crashes straight into a matchup that looks more and more like it was built in Chicago's favor. You have the warm weather Los Angeles Rams coming into bitter cold. You have Matthew Stafford dealing with a damaged throwing hand. You have stars like Puka and Kyron Williams walking into real bare weather. And you have a defense that leads the league in taking the ball away, just waiting for one slip. But the real story, the one that decides whether this becomes a statement night or just another good memory, is under center. Because before we dig into broken fingers and frozen footballs, we need to talk about why nights like this feel built for Caleb Williams. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Bears and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 350 likes on this video. Nobody talks about it this way, but the Chicago Bears might have the one quarterback in this tournament who actually looks more dangerous when the temperature drops. While other passers are worrying about numb fingers and rock-hard footballs, Caleb Williams is back in the kind of conditions he grew up in, playing varsity games in cold Washington nights with rain, wind, and heavy air. This is not a quarterback who has to learn how to survive outside a dome. This is a quarterback whose whole game was shaped by bad weather, tight windows, and long fields, where every throw hurts your hand, and he still lets it rip. You can see it in the way his offense changes when the air gets sharp. The huddle does not shrink. It leans in closer to Caleb Williams, because they know he is not dialing anything back just because it is freezing. He moves like the cold does not touch him, flipping his hips, sliding in the pocket, firing to the sideline when most arms start to sail the ball. We have already watched him drag this team through stressful moments and turn what looked like safe leads for other teams into Chicago highlight reels. That trust, that calm, that edge in ugly weather is the part of the story that numbers alone cannot explain. It is the reason Bears fans now expect something big when the game looks hardest. Now match that mindset with the opponent in front of him. The Rams are flying in with a pass defense that has started to give up chunk plays, corners who have to turn and run on a frozen surface, and safeties who know they cannot sit soft because Caleb Williams will punish any hesitation. Every deep drop, every scramble, every off-script throw from him stretches a unit that has already been leaking yards through the air. And while Chicago leans into the cold with a quarterback built for it, the other sideline is carrying a veteran in Matthew Stafford, who is trying to manage a damaged throwing hand in the same brutal weather. That is where this story flips. And that is why the next part of this game is all about what his finger, his grip, and one rough hit did to the rhythm of the Rams' passing attack. Everything changed for the Rams on that one rush when the pocket closed in against Carolina and Matthew Stafford slammed his throwing hand into DJ Wonnum instead of clean air. One moment, he was running their offense with full control. The next, he was shaking that right hand, trying to pretend nothing was wrong while the trainers watched every grip on the sideline. After that hit, the ball stopped jumping out of his hand the same way. Throws came out late, some floated inside, and a quarterback who usually lives on tight window timing suddenly looked like he was fighting his own body on every release. You could feel it in the stadium. Even on television, you could see him flexing those fingers between snaps. The scary part for Los Angeles is that you already saw a preview of what this means. Right after that injury, Matthew Stafford started missing throws he normally drills in his sleep. He put one up that turned into an easy interception because it died in the air, then almost handed away another one that only stayed off the stat sheet because Puka turned into a defensive back and punched the ball away. He still found a way to lead scoring drives late, still hit Kieran Williams and Colby Parkinson in the end zone because his toughness and experience are real. But that was with adrenaline pouring through him, in a game he was already locked into. Now the swelling has had time to set in. Now every practice rep in the cold asks the same hard question. How much can he really drive the ball when the pain is not masked by chaos? Put that same hand into Chicago wind and deep winter, and the picture gets even more complicated. Cold air makes the football feel harder, the leather slicker, every hit on that finger a little sharper. A veteran like Matthew Stafford will fight through it. He always has. But every tiny loss of grip or velocity becomes a chance for this Bears secondary that already leads the league in taking the ball away. One pass that sails, one deep shot that hangs, one comeback route that arrives a split second late can flip the whole night in this kind of atmosphere. And that is before you even talk about what Soldier Field is about to look like on game day, with single-digit temperatures, swirling wind, and all of it turning the weather itself into one more weapon in Chicago hands. This is not just another cold game. This is the kind of night that turns Soldier Field into part of the Bears' defense. Forecasts are calling for bitter air that can drop close to 8 degrees, wind that cuts straight through pads, and a real chance of snow or freezing rain spinning through the lights. Every breath looks like smoke. Every step feels heavier. And even the football itself turns into a rock that stings every time it hits your hands. In most stadiums, that kind of forecast is panic. In Chicago, it feels like the city itself raising the stakes and daring the other sideline to handle it. For the Los Angeles Rams, that means their fast, timing-based offense has to fight the field before it even sees the Bears. Wide receivers who are used to sharp cuts on clean turf now have to run routes on a frozen surface where one wrong plant can send them sliding. The ball does not glide through the air the same way. It knuckles and dips. And every long throw from Matthew Stafford has to fight swirling gusts that can flip a perfect spiral into a jump ball. Handing off to backs like Kieran Williams is not simple either, because the exchange is tighter, the footing at the line is worse, and defensive players who are comfortable in this weather are coming downhill with no fear of the cold. You can scheme around noise, you can prepare for crowd energy, but you cannot fake comfort when the wind turns your hands numb and you still have to thread a pass into a tiny window. Chicago lives in these conditions, and that is where the advantage grows even before the first snap. The Bears know how to shorten a game when the field is heavy, how to lean on long drives that drain the clock and make every Rams mistake feel bigger. They understand that one muffed punt, one mishandled snap, one deep ball that dies in the wind can flip field position and tilt the whole flow of the night. While the visitors are trying to adjust on the fly, the Bears can settle into a style that fits them, with a crowd that gets louder every time the elements win a small battle. And once the weather has slowed Los Angeles down and forced them into tight, ugly possessions, the focus shifts to something even more important. Because underneath all of this cold, there are cracks in that Rams defense that Chicago can attack, even if the sky stays clear. For all the fear around this Los Angeles offense, the quiet truth is that their defense has been slipping at the exact wrong time. Early in the year, they looked solid on the scoreboard, keeping teams in that safe 20-point range and letting people call them balanced. Lately, that picture has changed. Now you see long drives, busted coverages, and scoreboards creeping into the 30s as games get tight. They are still a proud group, still capable of big stops, but the tape shows something different than the reputation. It shows a unit that bends a little more every week, and a unit that finally has to deal with a Chicago offense that actually knows how to punish those small cracks. Look at how those cracks line up with what the Bears want to do. Through the air, the Rams have started giving up big chunks, sitting near the bottom of the playoff field against the pass, while quarterbacks pick at soft spots underneath and then hit deep when the corners sit flat. That is exactly where Caleb Williams likes to live, firing quick rhythm throws until a safety blinks, and then ripping a shot over the top. In short yardage, 3rd and 4th and short, opponents are converting at a rate that looks like practice drill success, well over 2/3 of those snaps turning into new sets of downs. That is the part that wears on a defense. It is not just giving up one big play. It is feeling like you did everything right on 1st and 2nd down, only to watch a back fall forward across the line again and again, while the clock drains and your will goes with it. This is where Chicago can play like a surgeon instead of a highlight reel. Lean on the ground game when the sticks are close. Trust the offensive line to win in those dirty inches where the Rams have been soft. And then let Caleb Williams attack a secondary that has already shown it can be stretched. Every converted short yardage run, every 3rd down, throw that beats loose coverage, drags this defense a little deeper into the kind of night it has struggled with all month. And that is exactly why the next part of this story matters so much. Because the Bears did not just sit still and hope these weaknesses show up on their own. They made quiet moves in the trenches, added experience, shuffled depth, and built a roster that is ready to lean on Los Angeles for 4 full quarters. While everyone is focused on frozen air and highlight plays, the Chicago Bears just made a set of moves that could quietly decide how long this playoff run actually lasts. On paper, it hurts to see TJ Edwards and Ozzie Trapilo go to injured reserve, because you lose a leader in the middle and a young lineman you were hoping to grow with. That is the gut punch. But right behind that headline is something very different. A reminder that this front office has been building layers, not just a starting lineup. They responded by reshaping the depth chart in a way that makes this roster feel heavier, smarter, and a lot more ready for the kind of long, ugly games that January always brings. The biggest example is Braxton Jones stepping back into the picture. Earlier in the year, he did not look like the same tackle we saw before. He was fighting through his own issues and trying to hang on to that job in the final season of his rookie deal. Now he returns with fresh legs, more strength, and something to prove. But he does not have to carry the entire left side by himself. He can sit behind Theo Benedette and Darnell Wright, ready to jump in if a matchup goes bad or an injury hits at the worst time. That is a different kind of comfort for a coaching staff. Instead of praying that nothing happens to their starters, they can look down the bench and see a player with more than 40 starts, who already knows the system and the pressure. In a game where one blindside hit can flip a season, having that kind of insurance is a lot bigger than it looks on a transaction line. The same story is playing out at linebacker and on special teams. Jalen Reeves, Maben, is no longer just a practice squad body. He is on the 53, bringing all-pro special teams, work, and real snaps on defense next to Tremaine Edmonds and DeMarco Jackson. While depth pieces like Amen Ogbongbemiga and Ruben Hippolyte give you different looks if the plan has to change mid-game. None of these moves will lead the show on a national broadcast, but they matter when the season comes down to one drive, one injury, one coverage unit making a tackle in space. And while Chicago is quietly stacking experience and versatility like this, an old rival in Green Bay is dealing with a completely different kind of question, one that starts not on the field, but with the man wearing the headset. Green Bay's contract drama with head coach Matt LaFleur is quietly handing the Chicago Bears a huge long-term edge in the NFC North. While Chicago looks settled with Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, and a roster trending up, the Packers are stuck in slow negotiations, with national reporters already talking about a possible LaFleur trade to a quarterback-hungry team that would gladly pay for his track record with Jordan Love. If Green Bay loses the coach who built their current offense and has to start over on the sideline, it hits their stability right as the Bears are finally finding theirs. That does not mean Chicago can coast. It means this is exactly the kind of moment they have to attack, because you only get so many chances when your own arrow is rising and your biggest rival is wobbling. This Rams game is a rare shot the Chicago Bears cannot treat like just another nice step in a rebuild. Even with Caleb Williams, a hungry young roster, and a defense that creates chaos, there's no promise they ever stand in this exact spot again. Because rosters change, injuries hit, and other contenders reload. That is why this night has to be played like a statement that this version of Chicago knows its own power, walks into the cold expecting to control the game, and treats every drive like it can shape the future. If they finish the job against Matthew Stafford and send Los Angeles home, the rest of the NFC will have to adjust to a new reality where the Bears are not chasing the moment anymore. They are the team setting it.